Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Irene and I create videos about K-pop auditions every single Sunday. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about a very hot topic right now in the K-pop industry, and it's correlated to K-pop auditions becoming a trainee as well. So I thought we would have like a discussion kind of video today. I thought that would be good because I've had these before, I think in my last couple of videos, and they were well received. Sometimes I like to switch it up between audition tutorials and more of these like discussion videos about K-pop in general, so I thought today's topic would be very intriguing to talk about. It is about EJ. And if you don't know already, which I find it hard to believe if you don't, but in K-pop Demon Hunters, that new K-pop movie that just like completely blew up, she is the singing voice of Rumi, not the acting voice, like the talking voice. She is a singing voice. So she actually produced the song Golden and then also sang in Golden, of course. Um, Now, before you say anything, I unfortunately did not watch K-pop Demon Hunters, but it feels like I've watched it just because of the many, many clips I've seen of it. I'm very well versed in all the cast members because I thought it really interesting how EJ trained at SM Entertainment for 12 years, which is pretty much the highlight of today's video. I wanted to have a conversation surrounding that. So I watched the full video of EJ on Yujaseok's show. It's called U Quiz, and if you guys are familiar with it, a lot of like K-pop idols, actors go on there if they kind of like blow up, or even just like random Korean people that aren't actors or idols. But on there, she mentioned how she trained at SM Entertainment for 12 years, her insecurities while doing that, how she basically like it was a failure because she trained at SM for 12 years and wasn't able to become a K-pop idol, which I at the time was her dream. But she still saw success as we're seeing now in 2025. And I think that's kind of like the main focal point of this video, that even if you don't reach your dreams from the start, there's always something for you later down the road, and everything is meant to happen for a reason. I feel like that quote specifically just makes me always feel like very reassured because even if things that are within your control, out of your control, all of that is meant to happen and it's going to lead you to your end of the road, whatever that may be. And even if that isn't what you initially dreamed of, if that makes sense. So basically, EJ trained with these groups she mentions: Super Junior, Girls' Generation, Shiny, FX, and then a bit of EXO as well. So she actually started training at 11 years old, which is insane. But she started at 11. I wouldn't say it's uncommon, but she started at 11 years old. And then at the time of her leaving, she was like in her early 20s ish. So she already felt that she was a little bit late when it came to debuting. And so on the show You Quiz, she mentions how it's understandable how she didn't debut at that time because she was already pushing like 25-ish. On top of this, she also mentioned her frustrations while training and being a part of this like competitive environment. So we all know like Golden, it's an amazing song and you have to have a really wide vocal range, especially high and low. So just like wide in general in order to pull it off and execute it at the original key. Now, EJ like has like a darker voice. Is kind of how she explains it. There's kind of like a better way to explain it in Korean, but her voice isn't necessarily like the clean, perfect, very like sleek sound that SM wants their idols to be. Now, I've mentioned this before, but always talks about how they want a blank canvas for their trainees. They don't want someone with a soulful, like jazzy, like a darker sound, even if that means they're going to add that more emotional layer to their songs. They want someone that they can like kind of like add their style to, so pretty much a blank canvas. What they're looking for is like this very clean, crisp sounding idols that match the very K-pop sound. And if you look at SM vocalists, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So because of this expectation placed on her, EJ was very insecure about her voice and felt that maybe K-pop wasn't the route for her simply because of this fact and her voice, which is something that she was born with. You can't really change that unless you like fake your voice, which isn't ideal. Also talked about not having like a specific set of skills very well when she first entered. She didn't really know how to sing. She didn't really know how to dance, which is crazy because if you hear her sing now, it's like insane how she had a point in her life where she felt that she wasn't a good enough vocalist. But maybe that happens if you're surrounded by people like Taeyeon, people like Jessica. I don't know. EJ was always at that trainee level. She talks about two different steps that trainees are kind of divided into. You're at a trainee team, or you're either in that or a debut team. and she was always at that lower training level, not at the debut team level. So you talk about people being a part of a lineup. So let's say there's like 10 people for a lineup of this group. From there, they're narrowing it down and seeing how many members can debut, if they're debuting all 10 of them, or if they're getting people from the trainee team, which I feel like is a little bit unlikely because people in this trainee team are usually a little bit more inexperienced and not ready enough to debut. A good example of this is actually ITZY. So we all know that Somi was a part of this ITZY lineup with the four members, excluding Yuna. And Yuna was actually a part of the training team. So one day she was just plucked from the training team and placed into the ITZY debut lineup, assuming there were issues with Somi and they weren't going to debut a four-membered group, would be my guess, and also the speculation surrounding it. So that's kind of the thing. Once you enter a company, it's not just over from there. It's not like, woohoo, I'm in a company, I'm going to debut now. I think we all know this, but once you get in, there's just even more competition and even more stress surrounding, will I debut? Will I even be a part of this trainee lineup team? It's like a lot of stress. And if you can handle that, if you are passionate enough to handle this kind of stress and this competition, then it is perfectly the place for you. But I feel like for young girls, for young boys too, it's like a lot of immense amount of pressure for someone who simply just wants to pursue this dream. So EJ tells us that she trained from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. almost every single day. And this kind of goes to show you like every trainee's dedication is going to be different. You could simply just do the amount of hours that SM asks you to do, go to the lessons and just leave it at that. But the fact that she was showing up early and then also staying late to practice is a whole level of dedication. And that's kind of what makes the situation even sadder. Like, just because you work hard doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get guaranteed success. That's something that I think about very often, in a both like K-pop audition sense and also in a real life situation, because you can work hard, you can be the most talented trainee there, but if you don't fit the visuals of the group, if you don't fit the vibe of the group, let's say you're like significantly taller or shorter than the rest of the members in the group, like you're not going to make it in. And that's just like the way it is. That's just the way life is. Let's say you are super, super talented at engineering, but someone who is less of a talented engineer than you has worked less hard than you, let's say, nails the interview or has connections with the company and they get the job. You know what I mean? It's not always about whether you put in the hardest amount of work. But then again, think about it. She worked this hard to make it here. Do you think like those hours of practicing her vocals and perfecting her skill just all led up to nothing? No. All of the soft skills that she built, her grit, her perseverance, all that built up to this moment where she was able to succeed as a songwriter and a part of this movie. That just goes to say, like, you can take two different perspectives out of one story. And I think it's just kind of about what kind of mindset you have at the end of the day about anything. Are you going to be like, oh, I'm not going to work hard because all this isn't going to pay off anyway, it's not guaranteed success? Or are you going to frame it more like, no, everything I'm doing is actually leading up to something, and all of this hard work is going to pay off at the end of the day? Is kind of the mindset that I want you guys to consider, because there's really two ways to go about it. And if you're taking the negative route, there's only one place for that, and that's failure. But going back to EJ's story, because I thought it was really interesting, she talks about how she left this SM Entertainment and she literally did nothing for a month. Just felt really resentful about K-pop. She was still in Korea, but she still loved music and she loved indie music. So what she did was listen to underground music, made like beats at a cafe, just like really started from zero. She didn't learn any like songwriting skill at SM, which makes sense because SM doesn't really prioritize that necessarily. So she learned everything from zero, from square one, and just went on to YouTube and tried to learn how to make beats. And that's kind of what she did. She clocked in and out at a cafe every single day. And so, how her career really started was starting with OSTs. So, OSTs are the original soundtracks, is what it stands for, in dramas and movies, and she sang them. And one day, when she was in a recording studio for one of these OST recording sessions, she showed her beats to this producer, and this producer actually went on to connect her with Shinsadong Horangi, who unfortunately passed away, rest in peace. But he's like a he was a very, very big producer in K-pop and also just like in the OST space as well. And that's how they got connected. And then from there, they made music together. And she felt that this process was very healing to her. Even though she was very resentful about music, she was still passionate about it. And making music, I feel like kind of healed that wound that came from being a K-pop trainee. She made a song, and the original song actually made it to EXID's Honey. And so EXID actually worked with Shinsadong Horangi for a very, very long time and was kind of like a factor in their success. But she picked it for EXID Honey and then kind of just went from there. She joined an SM boot camp, which is like actually so ironic in a sense how she left um, training at SM to become a songwriter for SM. That's just like leveling up in a crazy way, in my opinion. And the first song that she actually wrote in this camp was Red Velvet's Psycho. And she kind of talked about her fight at the time with her current fiance and how that affected her. That was just like the storyline. If you listen to the demo of Psycho, it kind of follows that storyline well. It's very different from the Psycho we know today in terms of the lyrics. In terms of the melody, it's pretty similar. She also wrote Espa's Drama, Armageddon, so like all of these like SM hits, and then also outside of SM within the K-pop space as well, she wrote a lot of these songs. So guys, the conclusion of this video is that hard work does pay off. Now that's my take on it. If you think differently, let me know. And of course, this might be survivorship's bias where, well, of course she's successful. That's why we know of this story today. We don't really hear from people that completely flopped after training 12 years and didn't know what to do with their life afterwards and fell into like a dark hole. Sure, there are stories of that as well, but it all goes out to show you how life doesn't end after one chapter ending. Does that make sense? Like you can still go on with your life even if it's not what you imagined it to be. And one thing that I also want to share is that you always need to have plan Bs. Always plan out what you think you're going to do if this current career and this current dream of yours doesn't work out. Would it be going back to academics, or would it be, I don't know, pursuing something like songwriting, choreographing, starting a new studio yourself? Things like that, consider it. Even if it's not within the K-pop space or the whole entertainment industry, think about what you can actually pursue. And that's kind of my best takeaway for you out of this story. Let me know if you guys want me to make more of these discussion videos. I think I really enjoy it. It might just be me yapping for like close to 10 minutes, but I do enjoy it. And let me know if you did as well. Let me know your thoughts on this story as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video.